Welcome to Autism Knows No Borders, a podcast where people connected to autism inspire change and build community. Together with the Global Autism Project, I'm your host, Rachel Harmon, a professional with over a decade of experience in the field of autism services, outreach, and advocacy. This episode is part 2 of our Global Autism Community roundtable discussion about dating and relationships, originally released on March 17, 2022. Among other things, we discuss memorable dates our community members have been on, common challenges autistic people face when it comes to dating, the importance of clear and direct communication, and dealing with breakups and moving on. In this episode, discover what's possible when love begins with acceptance. And now, I present you the Global Autism Community. Let's talk about going on dates. Someone have a story they'd like to share about a date that stands out to them?
I recently went out with a woman to, if anybody's ever heard of Vincent van Gogh, the artist in LA, they have the Van Gogh experience where you can walk through a room with like his paintings on screens and it plays music and you can just sit there and immerse yourself in that environment. So, and this woman was an art lover, if you will. She appreciated that kind of thing. And I'll stand in a museum or go to a place like that. It's not my forte or something I indulge in, but for the purpose of this date, I did it for her and it went well.
That sounds fun.
Yes.
I have a crazy type of how I start every first date. So I learned this on my first mission trip. My room leader told me, grab some Tupperware and grab like a Tupperware bowl and some pieces of paper and write questions on it, just like start a little icebreaker and everything. And more times than not, it always works and everything because it just avoids total awkwardness. And just more than 75% of the girls I went out with, it worked. And of course, they always wonder, why does that guy have a giant piece of Tupperware and we're at a restaurant? It makes zero sense. They have to-go boxes and little doggy bags. Luckily, I explained to them, and then they understand.
Oh, that's a great idea.
I haven't necessarily been on dates recently, but I have kind of developed a little unique strategy when I go out to eat with my grandma or a loved one, or even a friend just for a fun outing. Whenever I take my grandma out for dinner to a restaurant at a hotel or any restaurant, like when we're sitting back and forth, I am pretending that she is being my date and that we are having a wonderful conversation that we can discuss things about and that we are learning what's best to have the best relationship we can have. On another scenario, I spent time with a friend last weekend, and we went to she actually was so generous to treat me to a croissant and a chocolate chip cookie from a pastry shop in Brooklyn. It was not a date. It was just a bit of a get-together. And what I'm trying to clarify is that I pretend that these get-togethers may look like dates. Like I treat it as if I'm kind of going out on a date where I have to learn what is important in it before the real date actually happens. So that's part of developing skills. That's how I look at it. Because even before I start dating, there are many people I want to see. And it's no different than trying to develop a unique practical skill that could possibly give you an idea of what happens before it really begins. And that's how I've learned to use my imagination in the real world.
Yeah, that's great. It's like, using it as a practice run. What do you guys think are some common struggles that autistic people go through when it comes to dating?
I think that they tend to focus too much on their past failures. And I actually read in a book called The Everything Dating Book. There are commandments, and one of them is, "Thou shalt not talk about thy ex." So if you're on a date with somebody, don't bring up your past relationships or reminiscing about someone from your past. Focus on the person in front of you. Act like they're the most important thing to you right now, and that will pay off big time. Also, let yourself loose a little bit. I recently, the woman with the Van Gogh experience, it didn't work out with me and her, but I did go on a recent date with a girl. We went to a pool hall and we shot a few games of pool, and she told me a little bit about some of the spiritual work she does, and we had quite a connection and actually hit it off that night. So sometimes you get into a situation or you're with a person, you're not sure where it's going to go, but letting yourself be and see what happens, you might surprise yourself.
I'd say a struggle is that we usually don't like small talk, and we'd rather skip that and get to the meat of the conversation. And at least for me, and I think for a lot of autistic people, I'll just start talking about my special interests. I can't tell a short story, so I'll just keep going and going when I'm like, oh, maybe they're not interested in this topic or they want to share something. And so just like forcing myself to be aware of that. And again, because I've only ever had one boyfriend, but this goes to just other friends as well, or family members, because I have to really remind myself to ask about the other person because it just doesn't come naturally to me. So I think those things can be definite challenges, because if you're not self-aware or you're not reminding yourself to like, hey, check in on the other person, or, hey, you've been talking about the subject for like 45 minutes, maybe they want to change subjects, then that could make the other person kind of feel like resentful in some ways because they feel like you're only talking about yourself or you don't care about their needs as well.
Great point.
I would say that a struggle is sometimes we can be too open right away and have difficulty kind of carrying on conversations. Because some people have asked me like, oh, what's your favorite thing to do? What's your favorite thing to see? I'm like, I don't know, or this or that. And then I kind of just drop it, when in reality, they want to know more, but then I don't pick up that they kind of non-verbally say like, tell me more about that. I'm like, it's just purple or red or this or that. And then let's like move on and talk about something else. But also, I think it's important to be open and honest, but it's hard because sometimes you come off as rude. Because my sister struggles with this sometimes when people say like, oh, my favorite movie is this. She's like, oh, I hate that movie. And she doesn't like register that as like kind of rude. She doesn't really know like the polite / like correct response and like how other people take that. But it's also important that we kind of like train ourselves to like what they hear, so that way it can kind of like go better and we don't come off as like rude, because they can think that sometimes.
We don't know if they like us or not.
Yeah, it can be hard to tell sometimes.
Funny story about me, like I can like if I'm watching a TV or movie, I can be like, oh yeah, she definitely likes him. I can tell, or like I can see connection. But if I'm like an actual date, I'm just taking a shot out of the dark.
I mean, usually when I talk to people, I do kind of like improv as well, because like sometimes I don't really know how to communicate with them.
And I've got one more commandment. Thou shalt keep thy phone in thy pocket. When we get bored, we want to whip it out and start texting people, looking at websites. Leave that aside and focus on the person in front of you. They'll love you for that. Phone in the pocket.
Going back with what Mary said at the beginning, I'm like too open. So like I'm too open and too honest. So I'll be like blurting out stuff that the other person probably doesn't want to hear because it's like real personal information and it just doesn't register. Like I have no problem talking about like, like pooping and my struggles with it.
Oh, that's so gross. That's so terrible.
But other people may not want to hear that, but that doesn't register. And then like Mary was saying, like we can come off as really rude because we're just being honest. but in society, maybe we're more supposed to be polite than honest.
Another thing that I personally struggle with is opening up to new people. I usually don't really open up to someone unless I like really trust them. So when I'm meeting a new person, it usually takes me like a couple weeks to be like completely honest with them. Then like the more I trust them, the more I kind of like open up and become like a little too real with them. But like the first couple like days and weeks, I'm kind of like, I'm a block. You don't really see me. You don't really get to know too much of me yet.
One thing that I want to add, when I was doing a bit of reading yesterday from somebody else's relationship experiences, this person says, be direct, upfront, and clear to the point. Don't rush with it. Take your time with it. Write down some flashcards about maybe some of your hopes, but also don't just keep it out on yourself. Also, go backwards and think carefully about what the other person is saying. And another challenge is reading social cues that lead to better understanding the unwritten rules. And one thing that I look for in a relationship, or that I would always look for, is direct communication. The one thing that upsets me and can be hard for me to experience, even though it will happen at times, is some people will use polite gestures and hide their true feelings. And that would annoy me because I don't want to be expected to know how you feel unless if you tell me clearly and directly. If you're communicating with me indirectly, then that's not going to do any good. So don't expect me to know how you feel if you choose to not reveal your true feelings. And there's one specific phrase that I want to emphasize. This is in relationships, but not just relationships. Everything in reality in and of itself. Don't let the grind stop you. Let the process get you there. If you can apply that, then that will absolutely lead to a successful relationship.
Got it. And yeah, on the topic of communication and wanting that directness on your side, which I can imagine is very helpful for autistic people who prefer to be told things straight away. Do you guys have any other tips for neurotypical people who are dating autistic people?
I do. I get this a lot sometimes. Surprisingly, they're just told you're not autistic enough because, like, they try to compare me to this person, that person, and of course, it's just so broad. It's a broad scale. And besides dating, a story about this is when I first moved here, I auditioned for a spinoff show of Love on the Spectrum, and I made it to the second round for interviews. And the producer just told me, "You're not autistic enough. We're just looking for more, people who are more low functioning and more disabled. Ratings mainly, just sell." And
That's terrible.
seems like for even with dating, like too, they're just like, you don't look autistic or you don't seem autistic. Like I've seen Rain Man, I've seen Big Bang Theory and Atypical, and that new show on Amazon. What is the name of that new show on Amazon?
As We See It.
As we see it.
Yes. Thank you.
I think, yes, society seems to have some kind of expectation or paradigm, if you will, of what autism is, what it looks like, what it sounds like. And when we don't fit that paradigm or that description, then we're thought of as less. And that's an injustice to us. And we're still learning a lot about relationships. And it's not one size fits all or one universal approach. You have to adapt accordingly and see what you've got with the person you're with. And that's not always natural for us when we have to adapt or think of something else or reevaluate our approach, roll with the punches, or whatever you might want to call it. And that's what causes a lot of relationships to go south when we're out of options, or sometimes we're too open. A lot of us do wear our hearts on our sleeve. We're too loving to a fault at times, to where I've learned there are people out there who use us like we're a means to an end, or they want us to pay for everything so they can get a free meal or free something. And there's no or little give and take. So the two-way street of where one person's doing giving, the other person's doing giving, the other person's doing taking, and you're doing some taking. So it's reciprocity that might not exist. And what's worse is when we're raised to think that some abuse that we've been taken is okay, where someone speaks to you a certain way or does something to you and they justify it, and you're made to think that that's all right without you saying, no, don't treat me like that, or I don't appreciate that. So we have to look out for number one sometimes when our relationships are on the rocks.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest issues with like neurotypicals dating autistic people, I would say don't make like plans out of the blue, because a lot of autistic people aren't fans of like spontaneous change. I know that's something I don't like. Even if it's like my parents just like, hey, you want to go to Target in the next 5 minutes? No, I want to do my schoolwork, which I specifically plan from 10 to 12 p.m. Like, I don't have time to just go to Target spontaneously, you know? And I feel like in a relationship with an autistic person, you have to be very clear and precise. Like, oh, would you like to go to Target tomorrow after your schoolwork? And then I would say, yes, I would love to go with you. But I'm not a fan of like, let's just do this like randomly without even thinking about it. I think that's something that needs to be addressed in kind of diverse relationships, like a neurotypical person with an autistic person.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I had a previous client where my client was autistic and she was dating a guy that was neurotypical. And she was like, we just got into a fight because he randomly popped up at her house thinking it was something sweet, brought flowers and said, let's get dressed and go to dinner. And she did not want to do that. And, he was like, I'm trying to, he called it, just date like regular people. And that statement that he made did not sit well with her either, because she's like, well, I'm not a regular person rather. But I do have a question for you guys, and I think it will be something that I'm curious to know as well, is adult clients that I have had, I often get a lot when they'll say that their significant other that is neurotypical sometimes can treat them like they're a therapist, because they're trying to adapt to their needs and, identify coping skills. Do you guys have any kind of like tips that would be helpful to not feel like have your partner understand you, but not treat you as if you're one of their clients? I hope that question makes sense.
Hello, Rachel here. Would you like to share your own perspectives by participating in roundtables like this one? Join our online Global Autism Community, a safe and judgment-free space where all kinds of people connected to autism regularly discuss important topics like autistic identity, dating on the spectrum, coping strategies, and many, many more. And as the new month approaches, we vote on which theme to discuss next. We'd love to see you over at community.globalautismproject.org. And now, back to the roundtable.
It seems like there's some kind of preconceived notion, like some people might get married and one person might think, I'll fix the spouse, or I'll make the spouse the person I want them to be in this marriage. Mm-hmm. That usually leads to a breakdown in that marriage. So I think if you come into a relationship thinking you're going to fix somebody, or they're not all right the way they are, and if there's something they're doing that's bothering you, that gets addressed, but not to the point where it's like you have to change, then you have a better probability of success. And because we want to be accepted and loved as we are. That's something that I think society needs to know more of. And yes, you can certainly bring things that might bother you to our attention, and we will address that when we cross that bridge. But as a rule of thumb, don't come into a relationship saying, I'll make him the way I want him to be or something. That's not cool.
Mm-hmm.
Great question, Kia. David, you have something to say?
There are some things that I specifically agree with, and I am going to be doing a bit of quoting from a wonderful inspiration who's in our group, and it's so hard to reach out to, Dr. Carrie Magro. Some of the things that he wishes other people knew, I agree with her. Give us time to process small or big time decisions. Don't expect us to decide things very quickly. You may need time to think about what is best, but so do we. That's leveling the playing field. It's also like you would go out to eat or go out to a movie. Split it 50-50 by saying, okay, I paid for the dinner this time. Now you should pay for the movie tickets this time. It's like, don't expect that one person to just treat you to every single thing. It's called learning to split it 50-50. But most importantly, love is love, no matter what. And the big thing is, even if we don't make eye contact with you, which is something I admit that I can struggle with at times, that does not mean I don't love you. I still love you even if I don't look directly at you. And the other thing that I concur with is that love is love no matter what. We may do things that look awkward, but that doesn't deny the fact that we are driven to be loving, accepting. We want you to be a part of our world. If you don't, that's okay. But we are thriving like everyone is, to be loved and accepted for who we are. If I love and accept you for who you are, you must do the same for me. And don't ever feel rushed about this. It's not just autistic people. There can be other neurotypicals who struggle with eye contact, which is completely true. That does not mean that you should assume I'm autistic just because I'm not looking at you. There are different things, and awkward actions should not lead you to making a judgment by saying that you're doing something weird, that I should not be dating you or such and such. That's not a natural thing. I confess, I still do actions that can look weird, like biting my nails or trying to clean out my nose, but that doesn't deny the bigger picture. I'm a loving, accepting, and sweet person, and I do whatever it takes to love somebody I can find, even if it may not be that one person. So love is love, no matter what.
Thanks, David. All right. And in our last few minutes here, I did want to touch on a topic which maybe is kind of appropriate. What comes from the end of a relationship is a breakup. And, it can be hard to deal with for anyone. But if you guys have any tips or stories you want to share on that topic.
I do. So my last relationship, the family that was, very ritzy, and their daughter was autistic, and pretty much she came from a really, I would call it, dysfunctional family. Do we have any Harry Potter fans here?
Yeah.
Imagine if her mom was like Lucius Malfoy and her dad looked just like Uncle Vernon. Imagine if they had a kid.
I know what that means. Okay.
Oh. I do as well. I'm a big Harry Potter fanatic.
Pretty much her home life was just so insane because mom, she grew up in all Catholic boarding school and got dumped there. Dad just had a lot of stereotypes based off where he came from. Her younger brother left the country because he was just tired of them, and his parents were mad at him because they had a grandchild and they didn't want to have any grandkids. And their dad told me, I don't want any grandkids from you. And one night, it was the week of my ex-girlfriend's tennis match for Special Olympics, and she's in state. And I found out she lost every single one of her matches, and she wouldn't let me go because her coach wouldn't let me, even though it was an open event. I get a phone call from her, and yet her parents are feeding her lines over the phone saying, we need to break up. And I'm like, why? She says, well, I just don't find you attractive anymore. And of course, I just hear that her mom just whispering lines to her. And I'm like, Brittany, are you really sure about this? Because there is no going back, and I can hear your parents feed me these lines, just to let you know. And she's like, yeah, I am sure. So I'm like, well, you know what? In reality, I could see this coming a mile away because there was a lot of toxicity, and your parents and your tennis coach literally just let the air out of our relationship. So let's hope you find someone better. And I just wish you the best of luck. And I was up till 4 a.m. listening to breakup songs, mainly Taylor Swift's "We Will Never, Ever, Ever Getting Back Together." And pretty much it took my parents, former friends that I was friends with back then, my youth pastor, just to put me back together because she broke me, and her dad broke me before. And I was so indecisive, I didn't know which way to turn, if I was going to work or something, that it was just out of control. And a year later, she calls me and says, hey, the reason why I broke up with you is because my parents made me. I'm like, duh, I could hear them. And the poor girl, she's really good at tennis, and her parents make her practice nonstop around the clock. And she never really has any time for socializations or anything like that. And her mom literally almost called the cops on us on our first date because my phone went dead, and I told her we were going to see a movie. And luckily I was able to charge it, and I'd send pictures of everywhere we're going, that it just felt like I was dating. I would feel like I wasn't dating her. I was dating her parents and her tennis coach. And everyone the next day in Special Olympics kept on saying, why'd you dump her? Why'd she break up with you? And I'm like, guys, not now. Just feels like when you marry an autism family, it just needs to be they need to realize you have autism too, even if you are high functioning. And when I say 50-50, a perfect example is one time I forgot, I was short on money, and I asked her if she can pay, and her mom had the biggest cow in the world. It was just that one time. And I'm like, look, my family's not rich enough to buy Nature's Table franchise so your daughter can have a job.
Thank you for sharing. So getting back to the topic of breakups, and to make my story of the woman from Illinois full circle here, after I broke up with her, a few years later through the grapevine, I heard that my ex-girlfriend was actually into women. So imagine had I never known that, or had I stayed with her longer when deep down she really preferred the company of women. Everything happens for a reason. Every relationship teaches us something about ourselves. And when we are more mindful of what we can learn from these relationships, what we can improve upon ourselves going forward, and look out for the signs, if you will, hopefully not make the same mistakes you have in the past. That's how I deal with breakups, and just knowing that there is someone out there for me. And I'm going to keep my head held high and know that there is someone that will appreciate and love me for me. And that's what keeps me going despite multiple breakups from my past.
Can I touch quickly back to your advice to neurotypicals dating autistic people? So I wanted to mention this kind of along the lines of what David was saying with if I don't make eye contact with you, it doesn't mean I don't love you. For me, I'm really bad at making eye contact, but I don't like being touched, and I don't like giving physical touch. So I have to remind myself to go give my boyfriend a kiss or a hug, because one, it doesn't come natural to me, and two, I don't like it, but I know he has needs as well. So I just give that advice that if we're not like showing you, like we're not like hugging or kissing you all the time, that doesn't mean we don't love you. It's just something that usually we don't like, or it doesn't come natural to us. So just to have patience with us and remind us, be like, hey, like, can I have a kiss? Can I have a hug? I haven't had one for a while and I really want one. Just kind of like little reminders, because it doesn't come naturally to us, but that in no way says that we don't love you. It's just not how maybe we show our love.
Yeah, that's a great point. Do you guys know about the love languages?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to
Yes.
seminar on Saturday.
Some people show their love through gift giving, some people through words of affirmation, and some through physical touch. So, yeah, everyone's different. That's a great reminder. And Tom, just to comment on what you said about breakups, I think that's really wise to look for the learning opportunity and what you can take away from that experience with that person. I think a lot of times when breakups can be messy, it's really easy to become resentful or to start blaming people for things. But at the end of the day, if you kind of flip it on its head and look at it from a place of gratitude and just be thankful for the moments that you did share with that person, especially, if maybe you're married and it's a divorce and kids are involved, like that can be really hard to deal with. But if you're just looking at it from the perspective of growth, then you can walk away from it more positively.
Most definitely. And as a coach, I feel my, for lack of a better word, duty to look for that silver lining, find that opportunity for improvement, see what good came out of what you've experienced, because it's not always all bad. There must be some little golden nugget or something that you enjoyed during that time that you can kind of reminisce on or do going forward. And just as it takes two to form a relationship, it takes two to break one as well. So it's not always just one person's fault. You have to look at yourself and think, what did you do to allow this to go on? Or what should you have done in the past that you will do in the future to stop that from happening again? So it takes a lot of self-awareness and self-reflection relationships.
Yeah, definitely.
Going back to like breakups and how Tom was saying, like you can take something good and put it forward. And when you're feeling like really sad, like you were saying, Rachel, like really resentful and everything, my friend Todd always likes to use the saying, this too shall pass, regardless of how terrible everything looks. And you may not be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel right now. It will pass, and it might take a while, but you will come out of it, and there is more good things to come.
Yeah. I love that everyone now in the chat is writing what their love languages are. Yep. Great. Okay. So any last words on dating and relationships before we close out?
I'll make a quick plug and then you can end it, David. So I'm going to be co-presenting at the Ed Asner Family Center starting on Monday, February 28th with The Dating Spectrum. This is a workshop intended for adults on the autism spectrum to find love and relationships. So I'll be sharing some stories and some experiences in that 8-week workshop. It's called The Dating Spectrum. Thank you.
Can you drop that reminder in the community when you get a chance?
Yes, I will.
That'll be great. Okay, thank you.
And Tom, you also mentioned another dating group called Meetup. Can you please post that in the community as well?
Meetup isn't necessarily a dating group. It's more like to form friendships or like a group or camaraderie, like a bunch of people who love to go like to wineries or to hike local trails, or you might form a romantic relationship within the people you meet, but Meetup in general as a whole is not a romantic relationship forming site.
Yeah, now I better understand it. But as I said earlier, and I'm very redundant about this, some people get annoyed and some people don't, but don't let the grind stop you. Let the process get you there. And I think all of us together in this call are doing exactly that thing in our own ways. There is no one specific path to achieve something in a relationship. And if you just think there's just one way to get it done, then your relationship won't last very long. You have to walk through multiple tunnels. You have to be open to other parts of the sea. You may have to kind of try a new food or a new drink. You may or may not like it, but a relationship is not done in one thing. And yes, you may begin it. And when it begins, after you find it, after you complete certain steps, it's a never-ending grind. It just continues at its own way. Either you work at it effectively or put in some noble effort. If you don't, then it's nothing. So enjoy the grind and don't let the process deter you from anything. It's not just searching, it's the whole picture of dating in every quality and unwritten rule of dating.
All right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you in the community.
Okay, thanks. Nice to meet everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Autism Knows No Borders. Are you a self-advocate willing to share your story and educate others? Or a professional seeking to hear directly from autistic voices and improve your practice? Or maybe you're a family member hoping to support and empower your loved one. Whatever your connection to autism is, we'd love to hear your takeaways from this episode in our online Global Autism Community, where hundreds of people from all over the world come together to support each other and know that they're not alone. Join us today at community.globalautismproject.org. Let's work together to transform how the world relates to autism. Thanks for listening. Take care.